All right, welcome to The Explainer. Now forget about your classic vampires and werewolves for a second. Today, we're diving into a master's thesis by Gamze Neil Arkin to try and understand why one of the most powerful, most terrifying figures in modern horror might just be a child.
So let's just jump right in with the central question here, one that horror filmmakers have basically weaponized for decades. What happens when the one thing we are biologically programmed to protect, a child, suddenly becomes the very thing we should be running from?
Okay, but before we get to the creepy kids, we first have to unpack our own kind of strange relationship with fear itself. I mean, think about it. Why do we enjoy being scared?
Well, the source material here defines fear in a really fascinating way. It's not just another emotion, like being happy or sad. It's described as a basic human excitement. Think of it as this primal, hardwired survival instinct that screams at us when it spots danger, telling us to get away and fast.
And according to this research, our fears basically fall into two big categories. You've got your natural fears on one side, the real-world stuff that can actually harm you, like the fear of darkness or murderers. But then on the other side, you've got the supernatural fears. And this is the stuff that really plays with our minds. We're talking corpses, zombies, the idea of the dead not staying dead.
Right? Which brings up this kind of huge paradox, doesn't it? If fear is this deep-seated survival instinct, why on earth would we willingly pay money to sit in a dark room and be absolutely terrified?
Well, the answer, the thesis suggests, boils down to one word: catharsis. See, horror films give us this safe container to confront all our anxieties. We get that heart-pounding adrenaline rush, that thrill of danger, but there's no actual danger. The paper even argues it's a way for us to satisfy what it calls our inner aggressiveness, all from the comfort of a cinema seat.
But, this constant search for that safe thrill, it eventually backed Hollywood into a corner. Because after a while, audiences just got used to it. The old bag of tricks, it just wasn't working anymore.
The term the thesis uses for this is desensitization. And it makes perfect sense, right? We're just so bombarded with violent images these days, in movies, on the news, everywhere, that the stuff that used to shock our parents and grandparents just doesn't have that same gut punch effect on us anymore. And you can really see this play out over horror history. I mean, look at the classics. Each one of them, from Nosferatu in the 20s to Michael Myers in the 70s, perfectly captured the anxieties of their time. But like anything, over time, we just got used to them. The novelty wore off, and so did the fear.
So the genre really hit a wall. Mummies, creatures, even the great vampires, they just weren't scaring people anymore, let's be honest. Horror was in desperate need of something new, something that could slice right through our jaded, seen-it-all attitudes and hit us on a much deeper, more psychological level.
And this is where things get really interesting. Because the genre found a solution. It found a new face for fear, one that would completely redefine modern horror and get under our skin in a way the old monsters, well, they just couldn't anymore. And here's the kicker. This new archetype wasn't a Hollywood invention at all. The thesis points out that filmmakers were looking to Far East cinema. They were drawing inspiration from the quiet, atmospheric dread that was being perfected in Asian horror films. Think less about cheap jump scares and more about that slow, creeping feeling that something is terribly, terribly wrong. This quote from the thesis really just says it all, doesn't it? People get scared of child image because nobody expects a bad thing, an evil thing, from a child. It's so powerful because it violates our most fundamental expectation. We are wired to see children as pure, as innocent. And when a film rips that expectation apart, it doesn't just scare us, it destabilizes our whole sense of how the world is supposed to work. So you can almost break it down into this terrifying three-step recipe for fear. Step 1. You take the universal symbol of innocence and purity, a child. Step 2, you twist it, you invert it, you turn that symbol into a vessel for pure malice. And then step 3, the final blow, you turn the very thing we are programmed to protect into the one thing we absolutely have to fear. The thing you're supposed to run to for safety is now the thing you have to run from.
So what are we really afraid of here? Because this isn't just about some clever cinematic trick to get a jump scare. No, the thesis argues this trope acts like a mirror, reflecting some of our deepest, most modern anxieties right back at us.
Yeah, our collective fascination with this trope, it really holds up a mirror to our own societal fears. It taps into that unsettling modern feeling that maybe the things we take for granted as safe, our homes, our communities, even the very idea of childhood innocence, maybe they aren't so secure after all.
And that really leaves us with a final, pretty unsettling question to think about. What is our collective fear of these monstrous children? What does it really reveal about our anxieties in the world today? In an age with so many real-world threats, what does it mean that the image that terrifies us the most is the one that looks exactly like our own kids?